Hi, would you mind telling your name for the world out there? If you would?
Jerry DiPietro.
Thank you, Jerry. And I know Jerry, but I just have to put it out there for the rest of you. People have known Jerry probably since the 7th grade, perhaps, give or take.
Sure.
And what year did you go in? First of all, what branch were you in, sir?
I was in the Navy.
The Navy, okay.
Navy, yeah.
What year did you go in?
I went in 68,
Yep.
1968. Back in those days, you had a military obligation
Yep.
to serve so many years in the military. And you had the draft, you had volunteers. The Army drafted, they needed people, but you could go in for 2 years. The Navy, Air Force, and Marines, it was a 4-year at the time, but it was a voluntary, they called it. So I volunteered for the Navy. And they always said you'd always have a clean bed and good food, and that's true. The Marine Corps and the Army, they were a little tough, you know. But the Navy, it wasn't a bad deal to go in the Navy. And went into Boston, signed up, raised your hand, they send you off, and 4 years later you come back home and you're a different person. I think it was the best thing because nobody goes in the military today. Kids don't go in the military. You know, it's a good, solid thing. I can tell people that I meet that I don't even know, I bet that guy was in the military just from his actions and his respect and the way he does things. And then you got the punks out there. I know they were never in the military, and they're still punky, you know.
Yeah, you still carry a military bearing, as they used to call it.
That's
You have
right,
the military
yes.
bearing.
I think anybody that was in is still that made you what you are today. And it's not a bad thing.
So you went to some naval. Where'd you do
Yeah,
boot camp?
Great Lakes. They sent us
Okay.
up to Great Lakes up in Chicago.
Yep.
You spent 12 weeks in boot camp, and then they put all your stuff together to see what you're best qualified to do.
Yep.
And I was qualified as a heavy equipment operator, dump truck, bulldozers, things like that. So I got into the Navy Seabees, which did construction work. They built the bases and the facilities in the war zone to get the war going, so to speak. And so I spent 2 years over there in Vietnam building, moving dirt, mixing concrete. And then we left it all behind. You know, there was a day we had to move on, and we left that all behind. And I came back here looking for work, and there wasn't much work around. And the work that was there, people already had those jobs. The guys that didn't go, they went to college, and by the time they got out of college, the war was over. So they sort of slid through it, you know, and they grabbed up the good jobs that were available. And it was tough for a couple of years. There was really not a lot of work around. And the people you work for, they were exploiting you, you know. So I don't know if that had anything to do with being a veteran or not. And I think for me it was the opportunity. You know, I was shunned away looking for a job around here, told that, well, what you did over there, it's, you know, it doesn't give you any credit for anything here now. You know, that's kind of the...
Unlike World War II, when you came back,
Right.
you had a leg up on
Right.
people. Not,
Yeah.
Now, after boot camp, did you have to go through any specific training, or was there a school
we went
after?
went down to Rhode Island,
Yep.
down to Kingston, Rhode Island. What is it? Quonset Point,
sure,
Rhode
yeah,
Island.
yeah.
It was a CB base down there. They spent another 12, 15 weeks learning your trade.
Yep.
Plumbers, electricians, carpenters, whatever. And you became what they wanted you to be, and then they send you out to California or down south. And then from there, we went over to Vietnam twice. I did 2 tours over there. And
Were they two 12-month tours? Or
yeah,
what
I
was
think
that?
there were two 9-month tours.
2 9.
And I volunteered for the second time. And the reason for that is the battalion was going back to Guam the next year. And there's a joke I say, but I won't say on TV. But there's not much on Guam. So I says, well, we'll go back to Vietnam for another year. I think about that now and say, what are you, nuts? There was a war going on over there. you know? But when you were a kid, a young kid, you didn't look at it that way, you know? You just went, did it, came home, you know? One thing that I think about now, when we used to go over at the different airports, as we were going over, they were bringing bodies back in those, the stainless steel coffins with the forklifts. The Heister forklifts would go in the plane and pull the bodies out, and we'd be like, but again, you're a young kid, you know, you think, well, that ain't gonna happen to me.
But when you got there the first time, the first 9 months, that was what, 69 you got over there, or
70.
70?
Went over there in 70.
Where were you at, and what were you building, or what were you
First
doing?
year in 70, we were in what's called 4 Corps. That's down in the South China Sea. We built a boat repair facility for the Vietnamese Navy. We were turning over the war. It was called Vietnamization. We were going to teach them how to run their own war. So we built them a boat facility, berthing, fuel depot, and we built this base for them. And then as soon as we left and turned it over to the Vietnamese Navy, a week later the Viet Cong come in, took it away from the South Vietnamese and kept it for themselves.
Were you down by the Mekong Delta? Or you
Yes,
down that?
we were right
the
in the
Delta,
tip
yeah.
of the South China Sea. Yeah, we were way out nowhere with 33 guys in one little island, you know.
Oh, yes. What you must have had the monsoon season down
Oh
there,
yeah,
a little
yeah.
water.
Rain, half the year it rains, the other half it's so hot you burn.
Yeah.
You know, it was hot, dry, nothing like a cold drink of water, but you couldn't get it over there. They put chlorine in it. It always tasted like bleach water. You could never get a, that's why I have a cold drink of water from here. It always brings me back, you know. Even a hot shower. We used to wash in the river. It was all, yeah, it was a river. It was a dirty Mekong River. Dead things in there. We used to wash in there. Now, at night, I took my shower today. Nice hot water, nice soap, nice towel, you know.
One of the many things you learn that you appreciate afterwards.
Right, yeah. I still think of it today. Nice hot, clean water. You
Your
know?
second time you went back, where'd you go?
We were probably the same latitude, but this year we worked with Vietnamese villagers, almost like a Peace Corps, and we taught them how to build a mud block building for a hospital or a school, and fix a road and put up some electricity, and we taught them trades, and we did that for a year. And because they had they never saw plywood. They didn't know what things like that were. And we try to push that on them. And that was our job. And they liked us. They liked us. The people liked us more than a lot of maybe military guys that were infantry and more in a war zone. We were there, but we were trying to help the situation.
How'd you get your equipment in?
It was already there. We came on those Mike boats, the ones with the tailgates that fall down and you drive them off into the beach.
Like the old LST type boats,
Yes,
yeah.
but it's a Mike. It's called
Yeah.
a Mike boat. Yeah, yeah. Everything came in on the water or by helicopter.
Would they take them in Chinooks, big helicopters?
No, the
then, right?
smaller ones that we couldn't take the. Yeah,
Okay.
no, we had some big. We
Yeah.
had some Chinooks come in. Yes,
yeah.
we had a landing pad and all that. Yeah. Whenever I hear a helicopter now go over, the state police helicopters, brings me back.
Yeah, you don't hear a lot of Hueys anymore because the Hueys used to hear the thump,
Right, yeah.
thump, 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 thump.
Yeah.
When I see a helicopter now, I notice it's not a Huey. It's
Right.
like a
Yeah. Well, see,
state
they're a little bit different.
Yeah.
Still, that
Still here.
that reminds me.
plane. Still look up.
Right. That's right.
Did you provide your own security? Were you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
you
they gave us Cambodian soldiers, and they would sit out there, and half the time they'd be sleeping. But yeah, we didn't have any Marines. There were no Marines. We had some Army down there, but they had their own stuff. We kind of defended ourselves. We had a couple of times we got incoming and combat action. I was sniped that once.
Take
Yeah.
your own medics with you? Do you give you a
Oh,
medic?
yeah,
or would
yeah.
you-
We had one guy. He was the corpsman. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd fix you up if something happened. Hopefully.
So, did the unit have any recognition for your service at all, or what did you?
Um,
By by the government? Did you get any, any
yeah,
citations or what have you?
Oh
or-
yeah. Oh, I got a book at home.
Yep.
Bill, also for building bridges and villages and
Yep.
things like that. These small Vietnamese villages, the road would wash out, and they'd have no way to get back and forth. We'd come in with the bulldozers and
Yeah.
bring up some earth and throw some stone on there, and they loved us. The people loved us, you know. Everybody, even the Viet Cong loved us because we built the base, and then after we built it and we left, they'd come and take it. So they never really screwed around with us until our work was done, you know.
So you got, you were saying that your unit was cited at one time, right?
Yes,
yeah.
yes. We got a unit citation. It had to be for incoming rounds where we were attacked by the Viet Cong or whatever. Dates, I'd have to really dig in my records to find out that. But yeah, I got a Bronze Star, combat action, 2 tours, 2 campaign tours in Vietnam. Nothing big, you know, not like the big guys with them all on their chest. You know, I wasn't in that long.
Seems nowadays, and that there's a lot of ribbons out there. So
Yeah, right.
but people are doing. I don't know how people. You mentioned you volunteered to go back, and I think a big difference in today's world is that you know, in Vietnam, you basically, if you wanted to go back again, they'd take you back, but there was no second tours, third tours, fourth tours, like nowadays.
And
I mean,
now, yeah, well, see that, yeah, they cut back on that stuff. You know, like Teddy Lee, he went back for the 3rd time.
he
You know,
volunteered, yeah.
And the third, they always say the 3rd time's bad. Don't 2, yeah, okay, but not 3.
A great fellow, great man.
Yeah,
Teddy.
yes.
The world lost a great man.
Yeah.
What could have been had he been with us, but.
But
But
he,
I mean, nowadays they you have to go back. It's not voluntary. You get sent back with your unit. It's tough. you know.
Right, yeah, you hear about guys, you know, 3, 4 times.
Don't know how they
go
do it.
over,
Don't know how
yeah.
the families do it. It's just.
Right, yeah.
But so when you get out, you had a period of lull getting work, and then things picked up.
Yeah,
Or?
nah, never really did. And then I got away from it. I kind of went off on my own and just became self-employed and kind of didn't have too much to do with the government, with the establishment. I was kind of like on my own, where there were many controls on me, and I made a living. I made a living on my own. So maybe these guys that pushed me away for jobs was better off, and now I became my own man, you know. And to this day, I see these people, you know, that I ask work for, and they kind of like, you know. I see them, and they remember, and I remember, but I don't say nothing to them.
In the end, Jerry, if we're happy,
That's
it's
all.
okay.
That's what's important.
Happy and healthy is good.
Absolutely.
Now we were talking outside, and I asked about your family. Now you were saying that your family had a lot. Your uncles were in the service.
Right. Yes. Yeah. World War II. They all went.
How many was that?
I think there was. It was 7. Geez, I got to start counting on my hands. Pretty sure there was 7 altogether. They see back in those days, everybody, unless you were really, you know, disabled for something. But and then too, people, they knew that it's the right thing to do. I mean, if you hit out, you'd be back then. I think it would be different than today. Today, it's not a big deal to duck.
Yeah, my dad, God rest his soul, he had a rheumatic heart. Had rheumatic fever, couldn't go, but he served at the Charlestown Navy Yard. He did his bit, you know.
Right,
He couldn't,
sure.
they wouldn't take him. but
Yeah,
it's
there's
just, you know,
always
so you
things
do what you-
you could do that was, because that was like a big effort. You know, everyone was really involved there in World War II. Imagine how that must have been, you know, so big.
Well, you remember that when you got drafted in World War II, you were in for the duration of the war plus 6 months.
Yeah,
You didn't come home till it was done.
right, yeah, yeah.
But, so yeah, I know you're involved in the memorial that we're working on here
Right.
in Belmont, Veterans Memorial. You want to tell some folks about that at all and our work?
Yeah, yeah, well, we're putting together a centralized memorial for all wars for Belmont, the veterans, the people, the families. The way it is now, there's memorials scattered around the town at different locations, and most people don't even know what they are or where they are. We want to consolidate it and put it in a package that people can see it and recognize it and get the whole picture in one place.
Yeah, I was down at the high school yesterday, and I've lived here my whole life till I moved out after college. But I never knew that memorial was there. That was down by Clay Pit Pond. It's so out of. I was driving by. I looked down and I saw the flagpole, but I never knew that was a memorial.
Yeah, well, it's got a little placard there. Yeah, so for
But
people who know,
you don't walk by it. It's just you'd have
Right.
to get out of the car and
That's
look.
right. Yeah. So yeah, that's got to be. That's going to change. You know, that's going to change. It was going to take us a while. I didn't think it was going to take us this long, and we're just still spinning our wheels.
Oh, we're gonna hit.
But with this interview, these interviews, I guess, you know, I mean, it's going to wake people up, more people that know. We can use some financial support and put this together.
Yeah, I know. You know, with this project here, the high school's taken an interest, and it's good place to grow up, and a lot of good people in this town. So, yeah. You lived here your whole life, though, right?
No, actually, I was. We're from Everett originally.
Everett, yeah.
And we moved over here in '58. And I got something I'd like to tell you about my family history. This will be, I bet people get a kick out of it too. My mother was from Everett. My father was from Belmont. During the war, they were building the battleship Massachusetts in Quincy, that Four River shipyard in Quincy. My father was a pipe fitter. He got a job as a pipe fitter. My mother had a job as a welder. And they worked on the battleship Massachusetts, and that's where they met. And then my father got drafted. I guess they finished the ship. My father got drafted, and he went off, and then when he came home, him and my mother hooked up and got married. And here's something for you. The battleship Massachusetts is the only ship named after the state that it was built in. Like the Iowa definitely wasn't built in Iowa. Okay, so the battleship Massachusetts is the only ship built in the state, named for the state it was built in.
Wow,
Okay.
that's fantastic.
So that's my mother and father, that's how they got together from the war.
Yeah, and it's interesting to say your mother. You know, people don't realize that how many
Rosie
women
the
were
Riveter, sure.
they were involved in the.
Absolutely,
You know, they flew transport planes over to England, and very much recognized.
Yeah.
In their service.
And so that's that.
Yeah. Anything else you'd like to say to America and parts
I don't
beyond?
know. It's like the best place.
It is.
Let's stay here. Make it better.